Let's begin. 7. The government poisoned alcohol during Prohibition. The theory. The U.S. government poisoned industrial alcohol to stop people from drinking. The truth. Sounds like fiction, but it's horrifyingly real. During Prohibition, 1920 to 1933, alcohol was banned across the United States. But banning booze didn't stop people from drinking. It just drove the entire industry underground. Speakeasies flourished, and bootleggers thrived by stealing or repurposing industrial alcohol, originally meant for cleaning products, fuels, and paints. So what did the government do? They didn't just tighten enforcement. They deliberately poisoned the alcohol. Under federal orders, manufacturers were required to add lethal chemicals, including methyl alcohol, kerosene, and even formaldehyde, to make the alcohol undrinkable. But bootleggers still stole it, redistilled it, and sold it to the public. The result? People kept drinking it and started dying in the thousands. Estimates suggest over 10,000 deaths occurred from poisoned alcohol. Many more suffered blindness, organ failure, and permanent neurological damage. Even when health officials and newspapers raised alarms, the government didn't stop. The logic was brutal. Drinking was illegal, and those who died had brought it on themselves. So, yes, the conspiracy was real. The U.S. government waged a chemical war on its own people to enforce moral law, and they never apologized. 6. The CIA created a secret brothel to spy on people. The theory. The CIA ran a brothel and secretly drugged unsuspecting men to study mind control. The truth. It sounds like a twisted movie plot, but it happened. And it was called Operation Midnight Climax. In the 1950s, under the larger umbrella of Project MK-Ultra, the CIA launched one of its most disturbing experiments in San Francisco and New York. The agency rented out apartments, secretly installed one-way mirrors, and turned them into fully functional CIA-operated brothels. They then hired prostitutes to lure men off the street, everyday Americans who had no idea they were walking into a trap. Once inside, the men were unknowingly dosed with LSD, other psychoactive drugs, or alcohol mixtures, and then observed in secret by CIA agents sitting behind the walls. Why? The CIA wanted to understand how to manipulate people under the influence, to study whether LSD could be used for interrogation, brainwashing, or psychological warfare. They were looking for ways to control the human mind, no matter the moral cost. Many of the men never found out they were test subjects. No consent, no warnings, no apologies. And when the program was eventually exposed decades later, it wasn't just shocking. It was criminal. The U.S. government had created a real-life honey trap, drugged its own citizens, and called it research. 5. The U.S. used black men as test subjects in the Tuskegee syphilis study. The theory. The government secretly used black men as medical test subjects without their consent. The truth. Tragically, this wasn't just a theory. It was a 40-year-long government experiment in deception, neglect, and racism. From 1932 to 1972, the U.S. Public Health Service ran the Tuskegee syphilis study in Alabama. It involved 600 black men, 399 with syphilis and 201 without. These men were never told they had the disease. Instead, they were told they had bad blood, a vague term used to describe everything from fatigue to anemia. They were promised free medical care, meals, and burial insurance. But in truth, no real treatment was given. Even after penicillin became the standard cure in the 1940s, researchers deliberately withheld medication so they could watch how syphilis destroyed the human body over time. The goal? To study the natural progression of untreated syphilis in black men. The consequences were devastating. Many men died slow, painful deaths. Some went blind or insane. Wives were infected. Children were born with congenital syphilis, all while the U.S. government watched. When the study was finally exposed in 1972, It caused national outrage. It shattered trust in public health and led to the creation of stricter medical ethics laws. But the damage was done. It wasn't just unethical. It was state-sanctioned betrayal, based on race and cloaked in silence. Fourth, Operation Northwoods, a plan to stage attacks on Americans. The theory: the U.S. military once planned false flag attacks on American soil to justify going to war with Cuba. The truth: unbelievable, but fully confirmed by declassified documents. In 1962, during the height of Cold War paranoia, top U.S. military leaders under the Joint Chiefs of Staff crafted a chilling proposal called Operation Northwoods. The plan? To orchestrate fake terrorist attacks against American citizens, and then blame it on Fidel Castro's Cuba to drum up support for a full-scale invasion. Here's what the Pentagon actually proposed: hijack and crash a fake passenger plane, claiming it was shot down by Cuba. Stage real bombings in U.S. cities. Sink U.S. Navy ships and blame it on Cuban sabotage. Use dead American bodies disguised as victims to sell the story. Even fake funerals for innocent civilians. All in the name of manipulating public opinion. It wasn't a fringe idea. It was signed and approved by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Lyman Lemnitzer. The only reason it wasn't carried out? President John F. Kennedy said no. Had he agreed, America would have attacked itself. All to justify another war. Operation Northwoods remains one of the most disturbing examples of how far a government was willing to go to manufacture consent, and how close they came to sacrificing their own people for politics. 3. The Gulf of Tonkin lie that triggered the Vietnam War. The theory: the U.S. government used a fabricated naval attack to justify going to war in Vietnam. The truth: it's true. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, the very event that gave the U.S. a blank check to escalate the Vietnam War, was based on a lie. On August 4, 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson announced that North Vietnamese forces had launched an unprovoked attack on the USS Maddox in the Gulf of Tonkin. He used this event to push through the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, giving him broad military powers without an official declaration of war. But there was one problem. The second attack never happened. Declassified NSA documents and first-hand accounts later revealed that the August 4th attack was based on false radar readings, misinterpreted sonar, and confusion in the foggy seas. Even at the time, some naval officers doubted anything had occurred. Yet the narrative had already been shaped. The media ran with it. Congress authorized force, and within weeks, the U.S. was bombing Vietnam. The result? A 20-year war, over 58,000 American deaths, and millions of Vietnamese lives lost. All launched under the shadow of a fabricated event. It wasn't a simple error. It was manipulation, used to sway public opinion and open the floodgates of one of America's most controversial wars. 2. Big Tobacco knew smoking was deadly, and lied about it. The theory: cigarette companies knew smoking caused cancer and addiction, but hid the truth for decades. The truth: not only true, but proven through internal memos, whistleblowers, and court documents. For much of the 20th century, cigarette ads filled magazines, TV screens, and doctors' offices. Smoking was glamorized. Some ads even claimed doctors recommended certain brands. Behind the scenes, however, executives at the largest tobacco companies, including Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds, had already discovered a brutal truth. Nicotine is addictive. Smoking causes cancer, heart disease, and death, and their products were engineered to be more addictive. How do we know? Because in the 1990s, thousands of secret documents were leaked. These papers revealed that tobacco companies not only understood the deadly effects of cigarettes, they actively suppressed the science, manipulated nicotine levels, and targeted young people in their marketing. They denied everything in public. They testified under oath that smoking wasn't addictive. They smeared scientists, bribed politicians, and created fake research to cloud the truth. The turning point came in 1998, when 46 U.S. states forced Big Tobacco into the Master Settlement Agreement, the largest civil litigation in American history, exposing the deception on a massive scale. So yes, the conspiracy wasn't a theory. Big Tobacco waged a silent war on public health, all for profit. 7. The NSA's secret mass surveillance, exposed by Snowden. The theory. The U.S. government is secretly spying on its own citizens, recording calls, reading emails, and tracking everything online. The truth. Confirmed in 2013 thanks to one man, Edward Snowden. Snowden, a former NSA contractor, leaked thousands of top-secret documents proving that the National Security Agency was running mass surveillance programs not just on foreign threats, but on millions of innocent Americans. The revelations were chilling. PRISM, a program that allowed the NSA to collect data directly from tech giants like Google, Apple, and Facebook, without user consent. Phone metadata collection. The NSA was secretly collecting call records of nearly every American, including who you called, when, and for how long. X-Keyscore, a tool that let analysts search through emails, online chats, and browser histories. In real time, even world leaders, including German Chancellor Angela Merkel, were spied on. The scale was unprecedented. The programs operated without warrants, with minimal oversight, under the guise of national security after 9/11. When Snowden released the documents, he was charged with espionage and fled the country. To some, he's a traitor. To others, a whistleblower who exposed the truth about unchecked government power. The U.S. government denied, then admitted, then scrambled to reform. But one thing became clear. The conspiracy was real. You were being watched. And oh, the list has just begun. Do you need a part 2? Write yes in the comment section down below. Like, share, and subscribe.